So the jury was already out of the courtroom, so the judge giving them an extended break for the morning break. They hadn't had any break during the first really hour and a half of Georgia Cappleman's prosecution closing for them. Let's bring in our guest who is standing by in Austin, Texas. Criminal defense attorney Sam Bassett is with us. Sam, let's talk about that objection there. It is unusual for either side to object during closing arguments because the arguments themselves are not evidence. But talk about this interesting legal approach that the prosecution has made. Donna didn't take the stand. She did not tell these jurors anything about her position, but her son did. And because she sent text messages to friends back when he was on the stand saying, watch the trial, the truth is coming out, the prosecution says that's an adoptive admission and it is basically his claims are her claims.
Yeah, the judge basically ruled that her adoptive admissions in the form of those texts is in evidence. So the prosecutor can comment on that language, the adoptive admission text by the defendant. Normally, you have to be very careful as a prosecutor not to comment on the defendant's failure election or failure not to testify. But in this case, we have this weird circumstance where some of her statements to a testifying witness have come into evidence, and the prosecution is allowed to argue about those statements.
You know, it was hard to get any read on these jurors while I was sitting inside, Sam. They're pretty stone-faced, they're attentive, but I did notice one man looking a little bit more concerned when he heard Georgia Cappleman talking about Donna Adelson immediately using her last name for the boys, despite the fact that legally their name was still Markel, and she said that was them trying to erase their father from their lives. That can be a really just impactful sticking point for people. Not only did this murder happen, and if they don't believe perhaps that she was involved with it, but the fact that she was complicit in erasing him and not letting these young boys know about their father. Talk about that part of the prosecution's case.
I think that's a strong argument by the prosecution. She's an overeager grandparent who's immediately overstepping what would be the norm. Most kids who lose a parent under whatever circumstances don't have their last name changed. That's pretty unusual. And I think that's a very effective point being made by the prosecution.
That wraps up the majority of the state's closing argument. They'll get one more chance after the defense goes. Still with us, criminal defense attorney Sam Bassett. Sam, she kept saying direct evidence. What do you think about whether there exists direct evidence? I've heard that direct has to be it's on film or full confession, but do you see direct evidence here?
Not much, but you do see a lot of her own words being used against her via her communications with Charlie. These multi-person conspiracies do not usually involve direct evidence of the people at the top, so to speak, being physically involved with the actual crime. So that's no surprise that there's no direct evidence. But her words and her actions are pretty damning, especially, and the prosecutor finished with their one of their strongest arguments, the trip to Vietnam. That's pretty strong.
Oh, yeah, they have hit on that throughout the case, and the defense has spent a lot of time trying to debunk that. Sam Bassett, thank you so much for your analysis. We've got to get to our break.